to the Ink Sync. I am Annie.
I'm Kaylee.
And this is the publishing podcast for the rest of us, where we are covering season 2 of the Ink Sync. I'm so excited.
Yay!
Kaylee just spilled coffee everywhere. We're going to
sure
give her
did.
a second.
I'm doing great, you guys. I'm doing awesome. Actually, it didn't go too far over there. I just spilled it on myself.
This is just going to end up in our beautiful library of liquid sounds.
I'm sure it was a lovely sound. We always collect wonderful Foley. As a publishing podcast, that's what I'm the most proud of for us.
All right. How you doing, Kaylee?
I'm getting over being sick.
Yeah.
I feel like we're all going through it right now, but holidays did it to me. I got sick. My grandmother got sick.
Yeah,
everybody's
we're
sick
too from
yeah,
COVID.
You got sick. Yeah, I think so far it's me, Annie, your husband, and my grandmother that have confirmed.
Yeah,
got the Rona.
We're covering now, and season 1 is over. For new listeners, you can go back. The last couple episodes are some of our favorite episodes from 2022, and now we're in 2023. It's season 2.
Our most daring arc ever.
I want to thank everybody who listens to the show so much.
You guys are awesome.
We are more than one person's favorite podcast on Spotify.
And we're actually more than 2 people's, and we only have like 2 mom listeners. So thanks, guys.
And neither of them listen on Spotify.
And nobody, they're not great at
these
Spotify.
are non-moms who are listening to our show. This is amazing. And we are in the top 10 podcasts for more people. It's in the double digits. It's incredible. Like, we started this podcast last January, and now we have favorite
That's
show.
so cute. It's so sweet. Thank you guys so much.
Like, I'm blown away. Thank you guys. We started this because we love this shit, and now we have supporters.
It's a very silly niche topic.
Help us.
So thank you so much for your interest.
We love you guys. Season 2, it's gonna be lit.
Yes.
We're gonna start it off good. For season 2, anything that you want to hear about, let us know. You can email us, inksyncpodcast@gmail.com. You can reach out to us on Twitter at the Inksync Podcast. We're on Instagram at the Inksync Podcast. You can send us smoke signals.
Yep.
We accept those. No, please don't set things on fire outside of our house.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe we shouldn't commit arson.
We accept arson. We just don't encourage arson.
Yeah, legally we are not responsible in case anybody.
That's right.
In case it comes up later.
Oh man, this is also our first Ink Sync field trip. We're recording this from a hotel room.
Dun dun dun. Yeah, it's a fun experiment. Annie had an adventure getting our setup.
Yep.
Together.
We are using ill-fitting equipment, but you know what? We're gonna make it work. All right, so we are going to start season 2 off with a bang. Ay. So this first story, I wanted to start us off with something funny. I'm sure we've all thought about this. Like, who would you want to hang out with? The New York Times asks authors, modern authors, in all of its book interviews, who would you invite to a dinner party? What author would you invite to a dinner party? I thought it was a really cute exercise. What do you think? Who would you invite to?
I knew you were going to ask, so I prepared my answer.
Good.
And this is just you stalling, so you don't have to answer as quickly. But I would invite Terry Pratchett, Diane Duane, and Tamora Pierce.
That'll be a fun dinner party. Oh my gosh. I don't know what Terry Pratchett was like in person, but I assume...
by all accounts, he was just a very wonderful, genial man.
That sounds awesome.
Neil Gaiman was a big fan of his, just as a friend. So, and I had to really I was waffling on bringing Neil in, but I can just shout into the wild at him, and he may or may not see it. He is still a person in the world.
He does. He still exists.
Despite his total lack of social media presence. That's a running joke. Yes, I can. Despite his total lack of social media presence, which is a running joke.
Yeah, that's right. He's not on every single platform.
Oh, there was the New York Times or some channel, I can't remember exactly what it was, some media outlet was like, despite his lack of social media presence, like, as he was, like, actively involved in everyone, and basically, it's just really funny.
He's everywhere.
And a huge Tumblr presence, too.
Yeah, Tumblr, Twitter, he talks to people everywher.
Yeah, he's a very social man. Anyway, so,
you didn't put Neil Gaiman, he was on your, like,
he's on my short list, just not the top list. What about you, Annie? Who'd you bring?
So, I agree that I think Oscar Wilde would be a super fun person to party with.
Oh my God, you might get arrested, but it'd be real fun.
Right. I want Oscar Wilde, and I don't know, like, whoever Oscar Wilde wanted to bring, like,
Dorothy Wordsworth was one of my shortlist choices too, but she was like her brother's like biggest supporter. They were like best friends throughout their whole lives, and like her very detailed notes about their journeys, their walks, like he used those for a lot of his poetry. She never wanted to be published. She's just very good. She did her own poetry. She did her own like travelogues, essentially. Awesome. And they're very good. So he was Oscar Wilde was actually a big fan of both of them. Like they were good.
Oh, that's cool. You know who I would have with Oscar Wilde? Stephen Fry. That would be a fun party.
That would be a fun party. Again, Annie's looking to get arrested, but
listen, I've never been arrested, but I feel like if you get arrested with Stephen Fry and Oscar Wilde at a dinner party,
you did it.
You go down in history.
Yeah, it's true.
Your dinner party goes down as probably one of the best dinner parties of all time. I did appreciate that one person in this article. We'll post this article in the show notes that said, listen, authors don't have dinner parties. We're not social like that. And the person was like, okay, but like, who would you invite if you did have dinner parties? It's true.
Make it up. You are an author. You're like, use your imagination. Pretend exactly. There were some good answers. I liked some of the answers on there. There were some good ones.
Yeah, I was being a little bit pedantic as I was reading through. Someone said Shakespeare, but he has to speak modern English, and I was like, pushing up my glasses. I was like, actually, that is modern English. Technically, Middle English is Chaucer. I didn't say that out loud, but I felt it in my bones that I should never say it out loud. But now I'm sharing it with all of you guys because we're friends, aren't we?
Yeah, this is the circle of trust, Annie.
Don't judge me as I push my glasses up my nose.
Well, actually.
Yeah. So you guys are going to be hearing this probably in February. We are recording it in January. So we are getting a lot of the year-end roundups on our newsfeed. And we're going to get kind of meta on this. So talk a lot about the books and the book industry. And there was a ton to talk about this year. LitHub rounded up the biggest literary stories of the year. We covered many of them. The plight of the libraries, the Penguin Random House, Simon and Schuster failed mergers. We covered the book bans. We'll be covering the HarperCollins union later in this very episode. But we haven't covered some of these. We did record a small piece on Salman Rushdie getting attacked, but we haven't actually released that. So for those who don't know, Salman Rushdie was a radical writer. He made a lot of people angry, and he was stabbed at a literary event. We don't know much about the event itself, but we know he did survive. He's alive. He's still recovering. Yeah. And of course, our hearts go out to him. We didn't really talk about Book Talk and the Colleen Hoover, the cohort.
I'd never heard of this lady. Annie, you're so much more active on Book Talk.
Yeah, so this is a real thing. Book Talk loves Colleen Hoover. It's just, she's a romance writer, and it's good stuff. I mean, it's, fine. It's not particularly my cup of tea. That's not my favorite genre, but, it's good.
Sure.
The Book Talk's users, I wrote, disproportionately seem to love Colleen Hoover in my notes.
Somebody's gonna come for you.
Yeah, right. Disproportionate.
What does that mean? What are you implying?
She released the book It Starts With Us this year, and it became one of the most pre-ordered books of all time.
I saw that. That was fascinating.
Yeah, almost 1 million pre-orders, which is
insane. That's bonkers.
Yeah. Another one that made this list was Wordle.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't realize that some like little Welsh dude was just like, here you go, my dear, and like made a little Wordle game for his person.
That's so cute.
And then just released it.
And then it went viral.
Yeah. That's cute as shit.
It's super adorable. We were playing Wordle in the car on the way back from a trip recently.
Oh, yeah. Alex is
everyone
obsessed.
In the car, very engaged.
Alex, on the phone, stewing over it until I told him we figured it out. And then he downloaded it and did all of the month's Wordles.
That's amazing. He downloaded it. I love that.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a daily game. For those of you who have never been on Wordle, it's a daily game. I play it probably every day. I'm one of those super lame people who starts my day with the crossword and like little puzzles and stuff. Sorry, I'm like 90 years old. But I love it. Which I thought was, I actually wouldn't have put that in publishing news, but LitHub did. So we're talking about it, everybody. And it makes me happy, so I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's cute as shit.
Yeah. Another thing that we didn't really talk about on the show was the plagiarism story. Capital P, capital S.
We talked to some plagiarism stories, but there were a few in here that, yeah.
Yeah, the one that they called out, kind of a very Schadenfreude story, an author who plagiarized in their book, also plagiarized in their apology.
Yeah, that was comical. Like, why? Yeah. What? You don't think that people are going to run it through a text checker? Like, are you serious?
It published, especially because she was apologizing
for plagiarism. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You dum-dum. What an idiot.
Yeah. Another one that LitHub put in its list that I don't know that I would have put in was Pamela Paul moving from the New York Times book review section, where she was the editor, over to the opinion section, where she is now a columnist. We've covered some of the shuffle of the book editors in our celebration section. We talked about Maris Kreisman taking over the book section at a new publication. Pamela Paul kind of started that when she moved over to the opinion section. She's stirred up some controversy in her opinion pieces, which I didn't super feel was like publishing related, but you know, LitHub is quite bad at her.
Yeah, no, definitely seems to have like a vengeance, or at least a bit of a grudge.
Yeah,
anyway.
they're not happy. The last thing that LitHub put in there was that Cormac McCarthy returned to writing
2 new books.
Yeah.
And apparently has been in progress for like 6 years. Like the book, the Spine Collector never got his stuff apparently.
That's
somehow.
Right. Well, the Spine Collector wouldn't have released it anyway for reasons unknown.
I guess we wouldn't have known if they had unless
right, exactly.
somebody said so.
Cormac McCarthy, for those who don't know, wrote the iconic book The Road, and hadn't written for a very, very, very long time, and is now writing new things.
Apparently has. They sounded kind of cool. Like, I'm very curious about like how these shake out.
They seem very buzzy. We'll see how the reviews come.
Yeah.
The most consequential story in all that, I think, obviously, is the book bans and the plight of libraries. We are very
which we're super
biased
invested in. And
yeah,
stop, leave them alone, you bullies.
Basically, yeah. Like I mean, we talk all the time about how much we love libraries, and we talk about book bans probably every.
I went to a library. I got my engagement photos done at a library, and it's just so good. It just is soul healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
good There's nothing better than a good librry.
It's the smell.
Yeah,
it's weird.
It's a smell. It's being surrounded by books. It's like it's also the way that I've thought about this, like the aura of a library. Mm-hmm. It's not that it's totally quiet. People are still like quietly talking, but like the books help insulate it, so you do feel a little bit cushioned.
Yeah, it's like a cushion. It's like a sound cushion, and then also you feel safe because there's also like a physical, not a cushion, but like an embrace, because you're just in the stacks. Like there's just, you can hide in there if you wanted to.
If you needed to. If you needed to. There's a grid. You can dodge. Anyway, so libraries are great. And
if the bad guys are after you,
people should leave them alone.
Just
that's right.
Into the children's section. There's tons of furniture.
Home Alone 5. Left at the library.
Stuck in the library. They would leave Kevin at a library. They've left him everywhere else.
That's true. That's true. Did you see that they did a commercial with the mom from that movie and Kevin Hart? She couldn't find another Kevin.
Oh my god. She's just shouting Kevin. Yeah. That's funny. What was the commercial for? Was it like they were in a
I genuinely don't even know. I don't have TV. It must have been on Hulu or something. Sure. I can't remember. That's so it's commercials now are so weird because like I'll remember that, but I don't remember what it was for.
Yeah, right. Clearly the marketing didn't actually work.
Sorry.
Many of these stories obviously are still ongoing. We may get more updates. The Penguin Random House Simon & Schuster failed merger is still having fallout.
Yeah.
Their CEO, the Penguin Random House CEO, just resigned over all that, which a story we got from Shelf Awareness. And Rushdie is still recovering.
Book bans are bad.
Book bans are bad. Yeah, we'll just land on that.
I'm just gonna draw the line. Controversial opinion.
Yep, that's right.
Stop banning books.
Moving on. So this is kind of a big story, so I've separated it into a couple different sections. Obviously, this is a podcast about books and publishing in general. A lot of the time we're talking about our favorite books, but the business is a business. And it's got, employees and buildings and debts and policies and cubicles like any other big American business. A lot of the things are sort of coming into a head in that business right now. There are a lot of stories we're referencing here. Some good work from Publishers Weekly, The Guardian, and the New York Times. Publishers Weekly did a deep dive on the state of the actual employees and the corporations, and the state was kind of worrying. The number of employees in the New York publishing business fell. Whether they were publishing books, magazines, or newspapers, all of them fell. And while women and men are pretty evenly split in author numbers, about half of authors are women, about half are men, they are not paid nearly the same.
Yeah.
And
surprising one.
Writers are earning less than $10,000 a year from their writing on average, which is not enough to live on, at least where we live.
And so is it? No, it was the median salary, not the mean.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, half of writers are earning less than $10,000 from their writing, which is not enough to live on. And the number of people writing full or part-time has fallen. And women are earning about 40% less than men on average, which is quite upsetting. This is a quote from the Guardian article. Dan Conway, CEO of the Publishers Association, said that authors are the heart of our industry, and publishers work tirelessly to try to ensure the work of the writers they publish reaches as wide an audience as possible. They want authors to find success for their work and to reap its many rewards. As with all creative jobs, it is a popular and intensely competitive profession to pursue. Earnings are not linear, and often they're at their highest in the first years of publication, he added, noting that, quote, traditional, unquote, publishers are paying more than ever. He did, however, agree with the report's observation that newer publishers need to pay writers fairly, too. And magazines aren't doing much better. Sadly.
It's true. It was just fascinating. Like, I don't know if it's a matter of them not doing, like, well versus them not being given the platform. This piece, like, we were talking about, like it sold very well.
Right.
Like, if they had just made a couple of different decisions that didn't compromise the quality of, like, the actual content so much as the presentation and, like, making it a little more accessible.
Yeah, this New York Times article was about a literary publication, a literary magazine that had folded, and it went through pretty much line by line, like all of the actions it had taken as a business, and it had been given as
great
much
reviews.
Yeah, as much opportunity. It had, invested in its writers. It just wasn't fiscally viable, and it seems like the people backing it just kind of gave up on it
after 2 issues.
Yeah.
The third one is there. They just aren't going to sell it.
It's like Batgirl. It's like, it's done. It's just, we're never going to see it.
So mad. So mad.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard for magazines to make profits. And that is obviously very concerning to, the business people, but also for the writers themselves. Many writers get their start in magazines. Many writers get their start in these smaller periodicals. And when the pool of those smaller periodicals gets smaller, a lot of them are concerned that they won't be able to make professional moves ever. How do you break in when there's no in to break into? That metaphor didn't work, but you nodded, and that made me feel
I know.
good.
How do you break in when there isn't a structure?
An in to break into.
Yeah, when the structure is not present.
That's right. Exactly. Thank you.
I was with you.
Ultimately, of course, this means that these publishing businesses are out of reach for anyone who can't support themselves long enough.
Well, that's it. That is the shakeout, is that, and it's concerning, and it's notably concerning.
Right.
And it, the authors of these articles are discussing that, which is that it is a rich person's game now. Yeah. And so then it does become a white rich person's game in a lot of the cases.
If you come from a lower income background, you don't have the luxury to not be able to make a living wage for an extended period of time to establish yourself as an author, as a writer. Like we said, that was the median was $10,000 a year. That's not enough to live on where we live. I don't know of many places where that is enough to live on.
That was like, it was in the United Kingdom, I think, in a world where like their like median or mean was like 30.
Yeah. Less than a third of what
you would need
to subsist. So,
it's interesting.
And if you can't do that, if you don't have the luxury to be able to say, oh, I'll just live below that level for a while. If you're like, I need to eat, I need to
feed my family.
Feed my family. Yeah. Then you are almost by definition shut out of this.
Yeah, as a professional writer. So it was interesting because like I just saw a question to Neil Gaiman about that. Like when do I give up on my dream of being a writer? And I'm not like, don't give me a bullshit answer, like never, or always strive for your dream. Like I have a family to feed. I need to be able to support myself and I want to give them a good life. And Neil was like, I would never tell you that. Like I would say, get a job that you can stand and write in your free time when you've got it. Just do whatever you can to, feed your creative beast. But like focus on that later when you have that capacity, because it is very difficult to be a writer. And he himself got his start as a journalist. I mean, everybody, again, only the very independently wealthy people.
And that's kind of how it's shaking out.
Can just do this.
And especially because, as I said, these are businesses with buildings and CEOs. Anyone who has a knowledge worker job, which this technically falls into, knows the push and pull that's happening in corporate America right now, where CEOs and admins want everyone to come back into work. And a lot of these businesses are located in New York, meaning they want people to live in New York City.
It's insanely expensive.
Which is one of the most expensive cities in the world.
Was it you were telling me yesterday about like people showing us grocery prices on TikTok in New York right now?
In New York right now, again, we're recording this in early January, and there was a viral TikTok that's showing a dozen eggs costing $10. $10 in New York City. That's insane. For a dozen eggs. What? What? I can't. Anyway, so
that's when you keep a chicken coop on the building of or the roof of your building.
But that compounds everything, because if you can't afford to live anywhere, you extra can't afford to live in New York.
Yeah,
not at New York prices.
No. Which is
and then
frustrating.
But if you're like dedicated, they're always like, oh, we want a self-starter. It can very easily lead to exploitation, where your boss is saying, you're lucky to be here. Do you have any idea how many people want to be here? You should be working for this small amount of money. And that's the slippery slope that we end up with. We've talked a little bit about publishing workers having other sources of income too, and specifically about how that ends up with conflicts of interest. If you're a journalist and you're writing about something, but then you're also being paid by, an advertiser to write about something similar, that's a conflict of interest. How do you deal with that? But you also need money. Like you need to be able to feed your family.
Feed yourself.
It's a real problem.
Support your rent. Like it's insane. And it's, what do you mean this person like did some shady stuff? Like, yeah, because you want to be in New York and you want them to be in New York. Anyway.
Right, yeah.
What a surprise.
And it kind of, I was trying to find the right word for what this does to the industry. I think it insulates the industry more than anything else. If the only people who can make the job in this industry work are the ones who are already wealthy, and those workers are probably about to respond to specifically news stories or book stories or magazine articles that will fit with their cultural experiences more than any others, that would lead to excluding diverse voices both in the business and in the product. So it's insulating it from everything.
And that's something that they observed. Like they're talking about
many of these. Well, obviously, we're going to put all of these in the show notes. It's kind of a big topic, but I'll have all of these for you in the show notes. But that was something that was brought up in every single one of these articles.
Yeah, and like the fact that, especially in like the UK publishing industry, that one article was discussing about how like women specifically, and then women of color extra specifically, are 40% less represented. Like easily 40% less represented, and
then making less money
and making less money. And it's absurd. They make up, half of our population are women, and like it's all connected because you're not approaching these stories. Well, then you're also losing the readers, and then you're just like, what do you mean I don't have readers? Like, you could open up like 20% of your population that might be interested in buying this shit from you if you actually presented them stuff that they cared about. Like, you're losing market shares, and then you're talking about like the money like it's a mystery, like it's a puzzle game or something that you don't know the rules to. I'm like, no, you know the rules, you just don't like them.
Yeah. And we want this industry to succeed. To be clear, we love books. we want to talk about books, and I did appreciate in I don't remember which one of these articles because memory is kind of blurring together. There's so many of them.
There were a lot.
But I did like how independent presses are coming in to try and pick up some of the slack, but they kind of are failing with paying the authors at a commensurate rate, which is like really sad. But they're trying, and I think that they know their blind spots. So hopefully this gets better in the future, but maybe it won't. I don't know. We're about to talk about the strike, so you'll see that.
Yep, there's a couple. There's like, I think it's just like people have just taken it back up, like taken up the standard again of like that one article, like we're seeing strikes again for the first time in 20 years, basically, like on a wide scale basis. Yeah,
so all of what we have talked about kind of leads us into this next story. Obviously, you can find this in a lot of places. You can look on the New York Times, on Twitter, but this specific one that I'm going to link in the show notes is from the New York Times. HarperCollins, one of the biggest book publishers in the U.S., saw its employees walk out in November, and the strike is still ongoing.
It paused for the holidays basically, and now it picked back up 2 days ago.
They were like, peace, and they just have been out there literally on the picket lines since then. That is dedication. Feel how you're going to feel about strikes in general. That is dedication.
I just want you guys to remember, it's warm now, but it was not warm like 4 weeks ago. It was frigid, in fact. Like, we had issues, like massive temperature, and they were out there.
Yeah. They have said that they want higher pay and family leave, which seems reasonable. They also say that they're striking for respect. This is a quote from the New York Times article. "This is bigger than our paychecks. This is about trying to make change in an industry that we think is broken," said Laura Harshberger, a senior production editor with HarperCollins Children's Books Division and the union chair, who was at the protest. "This fight has been focused on trying to make publishing a more diverse and equitable place that reflects our values and the books that we make," unquote. Again, this is still ongoing, so we don't know where it will land. Apparently, the union company contract thing ended in April, so they've actually been working outside of their contract for a while. I think it's probably likely that they'll get the family leave that they're looking for.
At least.
Hopefully they'll get raises. I mean,
well, I think, and
it'll be nice.
I think there was an indication that HarperCollins was negotiating that. I just don't know if they've met their actual stated request.
So it seems like there's a little bit of a back and forth here. HarperCollins says that they will continue negotiating in good faith. I don't know what's really going on here, if the negotiations are still happening or if they aren't, or what.
Yeah, it's a little
different stuff in here. Yeah,
confusing.
Yeah, obviously we're a little bit biased. We have talked before about how we support unions in general. And we think that, again, we just outlined every problem in the publishing industry. And it would really help if people could make a living wage. So
it also, I mean, it's like, okay, so speaking of why we need unions, like all these venture capitalists and then larger companies that started as such and now are like conglomerate owners of massive media empires that are just gobbling up the smaller companies. Like, they're coming in and scalping the talent. They're cutting, media outlets and organizations in half, essentially. That's one of the other articles that we'll be posting in the show notes, was from somebody in this vein who was advocating for unionization, which was able to go through. It was from Gawker, I believe. People need to be protected, and especially in a capitalist society, you don't have a real bargaining power unless you have a collective bargaining power. There's not enough legal protection in the same way that, like, in the UK and the European Union, like when Elon Musk tried to fire everybody in Twitter in the UK and the EU branches, like, that's going to be shaking out for years. Like, I didn't even think about that. But it's illegal. Like, it's not legal for them to behave in that manner. So, like, I'm not exactly sure. Like, he drained so much money. Yeah. Like, just even if he's just going to pay off whatever the salaries would have been.
Right. The severance.
Oh my God. Yeah. Whatever those options are, like, it's going to be massive. But, like, those people are at least nominally protected. We don't have that. So the only protection that you have as a worker, mm-hmm. especially in a right to work state, is collective bargaining.
While we're on this topic, I just want to say we have been accused of being socialists mm-hmm. on this show before. We're not socialists. I don't think that HarperCollins should be owned by the government. I think that that's ridiculous. But if in a capitalist system, the workers want something and management is not giving it to them, the workers then strike. That is a market move. Yep. So I feel like, honestly, striking is capitalistic more than socialistic, but
I agree.
I don't think that the publishing industry would benefit from nationalization. I just think that people deserve to make a living wage. This woman was the senior production editor with the children's books division. That's not an entry-level job. And especially living and working in New York, she needs to be able to live in New York. Absolutely, I believe that they should have more money than they are having, especially when HarperCollins
making record profits.
Making billions last year. We'll move on.
I feel like we've made our stance on this topic very clear.
Again, we're very biased, and we, have never made a secret about that. But I think that, this one is one of those ones where I think the right side of history is going to be the strikers here. Let's go to some good news.
Yeah.
Independent booksellers getting money.
Yeah.
I'm always happy about this.
Thanks, James Patterson.
Yes. We always want to celebrate wins for the little guy. We've kind of talked about this a little bit. Independent bookstores have had a rough go of it lately with the pandemic and then, in general, the slowing down of sales at brick and mortar stores due to just the internet existing. Yeah. And generally, just the state of the economy. And of course, shameless plug for bookshop.org. If you want to buy a book online, go to bookshop.org, get the book, and then you can select your local bookstore that they will get credit for the sale and they will get a little bit of a commission on it. So the prices are similar to buying a hardcover book on Amazon. And we have a bookshop storefront. I'll put that link in the show notes. You can, if you buy something through one of our links, we get a very small commission, but if you select the bookstore will get much more of a commission. So always select a bookstore. This story comes to us from Shelf Awareness. Author James Patterson, one of the best-selling authors of all time, selected 500 independent bookstore employees to get an award of $500 each, which is fantastic. It could go a long way to helping the booksellers.
So much money into that. He does it every year.
He does it every year. Good for him. That's awesome. I'm glad he's giving back. James Patterson gives us a lot of hate for all the things, but this is a good thing, and I'm happy that it's happening.
He built up his empire, essentially, and he's got the formula, he's got the essential author stables where people are getting used to finding, a way to do it. They're building those relationships and building those connections and trying things out. Mm-hmm. I think it's really cool that he at least, even if I don't know him personally, it could just be lip service, but the optics are better than many other people in the industry.
For sure.
Good for you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good for you.
Moving on to our favorite news section, women and minorities, killing it in publishing. This might be a little bit of a shameless plug for a fellow podcast. I don't know these people. I just love this podcast. It's called Missing Pages.
I just found out about it on this article, and now I'm going to listen to everything.
It is so cool. Good. The first season's all done, so you can just listen to it straight through. Beth Ann Patrick, who is a book critic, her podcast about scandals in the literary world. Dun, dun, dun. Season 1 just wrapped, and I highly recommend it. If you love our show, you will definitely love this. It doesn't all the way cross the line into true crime, but it's very salacious, mm-hmm. and they're all absolutely fantastic episodes. Congrats to Beth Ann Patrick and the entire Missing Pages team. Keep on sparkling.
You guys are doing awesome. And also keep exposing these shitbags. Do it.
They didn't do an episode on the Spine Collector, but
I bet it's
they did a bunch.
Because they don't have enough information yet. Everything, the case is still being prosecuted. Yeah. They probably want to wait. Yeah.
Oh, it's good. It's good. And Beth Ann Patrick's been in the industry for a super long time, so she's calling up her old friends to be like,
"Give me
what
the
is
goss."
This like? Yeah, it's super cool. And now for our favorite non-news section, Kaylee. What are you reading?
All right. So I did pick up, to be fair, there was a reason I said that book had been opened again. I did pick Gideon the Ninth back up.
Okay.
Mainly because I really
Stay tuned for part 9 of Kaylee picking Gideon the Ninth back up.
I picked it up. I may not put it back down. We'll see. I've been carrying this around with me on all of our trips because if I read another book, I've told myself it has to be this one first. And I have a new T. Kingfisher book I got for Christmas. So
it's in the back burner.
Oh, yeah. Like, I have to read this one so I can read that one. So I'm, like, trying to, like, bribe my little brain goblin.
It's been a year since you've had this book.
Like, my little goblin. So the reason I want, like, okay, guys, Gideon the Ninth.
By the way, I'm not forcing Kaylee to read this. She's chosen to make this her mountain to climb.
I know. It's because I actually think it's a really cool book, and also the T. Kingfisher book I have. Mm-hmm. Nettle and Bone. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's about a sister princess who wants to save her sister. Like, her sister's married to a shitty prince, and she has to, it's like a fairy tale style, but with the T. Kingfisher, like, down-to-earth characters, and so she has to, like, go through the magic bullshit of, like, the 3 impossible tasks.
It's like the truly annoyed moment.
But then also still go, like, and that's just, I love her characters, I love her approach to magical realism, and so, also, like, sisters, like, saving each other. It's fucking great. Anyway, so I'm gonna bribe myself with that book and finally read Gideon the Ninth.
Okay.
So again, I've picked up and I've read about a page of it again, and Gideon is hilarious. To be fair, like, the book is very funny when I'm reading it. I just haven't gotten hooked into, like, what's the next thing yet. It will happen once I get a little further in. I know it will. I just have to get that far in. So I'm the problem. It's me. Hi. I'm the problem. Anyway, so we all know where I just went. Annie, what are you reading?
Funny enough, I just finished book number 3 of that series, Nona the Ninth, and it's fantastic. So the protagonist of this one is like an 8-year-old. Well, she's mentally 8 years old. I think she's physically like 19 or something. But she is like basically living in like a YA book while everyone else is living in like this political intrigue, sci-fi necromancer thing happening. So as the reader, you're like caught up in her and her like friends who are stealing all of her fruit and how she's gonna get back and do her stuff, and like how the city is very silly and everyone's trying to curry favor with the teacher so that they can walk the dog, and it's like really cute. The dog's name is Noodle.
Oh.
And Noodle does survive to the end of the book.
Oh, thank God.
And in fact, Noodle is put in peril, and Nona is inspired to save everybody because she has to save Noodle. Oh. They're in a car at one point, and they're like, are we gonna die? And someone's like, Nona, Noodle's in the back, and she's like, oh, not Noodle. And then she saves everybody. It's fantastic. That's not even a spoiler. It's very good.
That's cute as shit.
Noodle also has 6 legs,
which makes him the best dog.
And when he gets scritches, his middle legs come up to.
So that's cute as shit.
You don't get to read about Noodle until you finish Gideon and Harrow.
All right. More bribery for my brain goblin.
Yeah. But I thought it was a really interesting way to tell a story because you're like hearing it from the mind of a child, but you are also getting like the dialogue that she's overhearing because she's a kid, so she's like sneaking up on all the adults and listening to their conversations. So you, as the reader, who are like immersed in this like wider story that's like this galactic war and the necromancers and the people that they're fighting, who don't show up in Gideon the Ninth, really, so you don't have to worry about them. It like you're getting that story as well, but then like the emotional moments for Nona are, can I walk Noodle, please? And how can I clean the board today while this weird kid Kevin is sleeping on me? Like, it's really cute. They roast Kevin constantly. It's like,
damn it,
like,
Kevin.
I'm not a liar. I'm not Kevin. And I'm like, what did Kevin do? Why is everybody so mad at Kevin?
There's a prologue we didn't get about
no idea
Kevin
about
being
Kevin.
a shitbag.
But it's fantastic. Highly recommend. And there's a lot of really interesting, and I think she's doing it on purpose. The author is a queer woman, and she does a lot of exploration about gender and pronouns in this book. And when someone says they, because in this universe, 2 people can inhabit the same body. Mm-hmm. So you can mean they in a singular and plural. Okay. Yeah, and it was really interesting. And some people are genderless, and some people are, women who happen to be stuck in a man's body, and still, expressing who she is as a person. Sure. And it's like really, really fascinating stuff that's happening. And Nona's like 8 and just wants to walk Noodle. and is really bad at lying and would prefer if everyone would stop using bad words all the time because she's a teacher's aide, so she has to be the one in charge and has to tell people to stop cursing all the time.
And it's very frustrating. That's cute. I like it. It's really
cute. Highly recommend. So that's the third book. The fourth book, I believe, is coming out, and they said that this is probably going to be the last one. And they set up all of the books end on a cliffhanger. Sorry, heads up. All the books end up on a cliffhanger. So this one is setting up the fourth book, and I am so excited for that one to come.
I love it. And then you're going to read The Lies of Locke Lamora.
I have Swordheart.
Also, I have that is true. I've loaned you that one, but the other one is a series I've been talking about for
Lies of Locke
3 years. Yeah, The Gentleman Bastard sequence.
Yes, that's in my Kindle library. I will absolutely read it.
You have to read the first one to get to the Red Seas Under Red Skies, which is the pirate one.
Okay,
which is the lady pirate one. So good.
Love
it's like it's genuinely so. The books are good. Like I will say that so far, the order of books that I liked the most, it was number 2, number 1, number 3.
Oh, interesting! Order. I love when that happens. Kaylee.
Annie.
Do you have a Kaylee Coda for us for this episode?
Don't be a bully, especially to libraries. Don't punch down, guys, like in general. Not complicated. If something isn't available elsewhere, like, don't take it away from poor people. Please, stop. Like, think about what you're doing for, like, 2 seconds. Impulse control. Like, we can't control the world, but you can control your own actions. So just, like, a little impulse control will go a long way to kindness. Just in general.
Thanks for listening to the Ink Sync. I have been Annie.
I'm Kaylee.
You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Anchor, Spotify, all the major podcast places and social media places. We have sponsorships available if you want to sponsor us for as low as 99 cents a month.
Thanks, Abby.
And thanks, Abby. We will see you next time.
You can maybe try to make something out of what word vomit
I think
just
it'll
happened.
Be wonderful.
Okay,
we'll have like the beautiful piano music over it.
Okay, good.
Which we always do.
I can read that poem from Tumblr if you want and make you cry
again. No. It's noon. I can't cry again.
I did it last
Crying hours are over.
Crying hours are over. It's not dark yet.